is a great gift to ourselves, a great offering. Making a decision, noticing the real sticking point here. We've stuck our bodies to this ground. We're taking a stand. So acknowledge that decision. Taking a stand to know ourselves as we truly are, without hiding. With openness. So let's start from where the heaviness begins, at the seat. Notice if there's any resistance, patiga, any aversion of that heaviness. Notice if there's clenching around the seat in the quads or the hips. What if we just accepted that we've stuck our seat here and we relax around it? That there's just heaviness here. How does that change the relationship, that heaviness? Does it feel more transparent, clearer? Does that heaviness feel paradoxically lighter? Because we often hold things twice. There's the physical body of holding heaviness. And there's the various ways that the mind pretends to hold the body. Some of those approaches can come with dukkha, with suffering, and some can be with less dukkha. Experiment with less aversion towards heaviness. What is that for you in your experience? How does that translate? You might notice cold fingers in this November morning, cold toes, cold extremities, warm heart, warm head. You might notice fire temperature in the form of contrast. So people are different here on this one. You might feel aversion towards the heat in the armpits, or the heart, or the mind. Or you might feel comfort there and heat towards the cold extremities. Wherever you feel any constriction or aversion or pushing away, just acknowledge that. Notice what happens when you just acknowledge it. You might find that those cold extremities start to warm up. Or the warm interior starts to cool up. There's a balancing that happens through acknowledgement here. There's aversion that's just pointing at something that needs to be noticed, needs to be acknowledged. It's like a finger pointing at something. That's why I point it to the Nibbana door of signlessness. Ultimately points us beyond labels or through labels. Things can't be captured, can soften into unknowing. You might notice pressure in the upper lungs as we begin to relax. Pressure at the points in the body that are impinged on the ground. You might feel certain inner pressure because we're in a group. You might notice maybe some aversion there, or at least a pointing, structure. You could call aversion just structure. Something that comes with a sense of inside and outside, with a pressure or pointing. Trust, relaxation. Relaxation is a kind of surrender. It's different than tinamida, different from sloth and torpor. Awareness dissipates sloth and torpor, but acknowledge, of course, it's there. Generally, sloth and torpor rest on tension, tension in the mind, tension in the body. And when you trust and surrender to what's there, both the tension and the fatigue, they balance each other out, just like the temperature experiment we just did, and the pressure and the grounding. Notice how when these this elemental awareness, we can call it, when they start to balance and blend, already I notice the little bit of the mucus from winter, November, start to dissipate. excess fluids. There's a fluidity and it's kind of stickiness. It can be oily and viscous in the mind. The mind will get stuck throughout the day on stories and self-definitions. Just notice where the sticking points are. Notice how these elements are expressed in those sticking points. There can be, when they're quite sticky, they get earthy, heavy. When they loosen up, they get quite light, lighter side of this element. They can lose their structure entirely and just become air and movement and breath and freedom. Sometimes they need to heat up. Sometimes it's normal to engage in a story. It'll heat up a sticking point, help it move. I invite you to play with an understanding of these hindrances. Makes every moment a learning experience, a discovery. Curiosity and investigation are different than restlessness and doubt in the mind. They're the liberating side of inquiry. Doubt is just almost like closer to despair. It's in the mind. A doubting person might not even know they're despairing, trying to work things through, but they're only trusting the mind. Free up the causes of these hindrances. We enter into this energetic layer, elemental awareness, that really questions the belief in the self, our beliefs in general, our normal, everyday understanding of the world. That's the first leap. It's into this ocean of experience. We've been there all along, swimming in this ocean of experience. We've just got our headset, matrix goggles on, pretending we're on dry land. We're separate from the ocean of experience, and we can pick and choose what wave is going to hit us and which water molecule is going to touch us. It's just not the case. Something happens and then some voice in us says that we did it. I did that. It's just doing and not doing. And very well trained voice that says, I did that. So that's the idea of a hindrance. It's the catch of the hindrances. It's this belief that you can suppress them. That's the way to liberation. It's a good practice. We can, when they're weak, we can easily practice metta to reduce aversion. We can turn an object around and see it for what it is. See through unwholesome sense object desires. See that we're just looking at unwholesome, excessive greediness around it. We can come back to this sensory field and rest there and find resources there. Come back to the present moment. You're away. Notice there's a sensory field there. It's always there. It was there before you knew about it, before you described it. It's there while you're pretending it's not there. It's the only thing that matters. The stories about it, life don't matter. There's just this undifferentiated field of presence. You can't take a position that it exists or doesn't exist. It's just presence. You can talk about it, conceptualize about it. There's no need to fear it. We're already sensing beings before our brains even get going. And we've been trained to fear and be aversive towards the sensory field. So we've already built up all these walls to this sensory ground that's feeding our beliefs about which hindrances are attacking us. No cosmic drama. There's no war. Be wise in your relaxation into this sensory field. When I'm there now, I don't see a story about a hindrance. There's a sense of fullness or piti. This energetic field is endless. Can't separate from it, so I can't desire anything here. So the hindrance of desire, of an object, of using desire to obtain something I don't have, that's a fiction, it's laughable. If you can use some humor to see through kamachanda, nidrahana, the hindrance of sense objects. It's just fullness in a sensory field. It doesn't change by the thought, I need this. I have to spend 10 years trying to get this, retirement, or this objective. I have to do this and this and this. There's just this experience and this fullness. It's already there. It doesn't need Robert, doesn't need an identity. It's already a gift. Everything's already balanced and equal. There's no pushing away, no aversion. Clinging is silly. Craving is silly. It's a true sankhara, true fabrication. It's all about ignorance, rejection through thought, a thought about a thought. Don't separate from this, even by a hair's breadth, even by a fraction. There's no tinamida here. There's no sloth and torpor. There's no fear. Udja kukucha. What's here? There's a knowing of being fed at the source. This is really when we understand why the Buddha taught us that paying attention to the source, yoniso manisakara, is what releases the hindrances. We just look to where the hindrances are coming from, where they're bubbling from, what they're being fed by. We look back, not just through causation, but to the ground of being, this awareness. ground in the breath, meaning gladden the mind through the absence of the hindrances. Really do it. Really enjoy their absence. All this work, finally payback time. Really breathe, feel the breath. Really, that internal wind, movement, nothing stuck. It's just held in place by a belief that there's a self. It's just a thought. Reality, the universe, is not a stuck place. Everything's changing, evolving, vibrating. Hindrances here are just intensities of vibration within a field. Completely universal. Deep common humanity in this vibrational field. The breath is just an intensity. The in-breath is just intensities. Pressures give an illusion of a surface, inside and then outside. These pressures are not us, not creating them, just labeling them after they happen. This is refuge. It's chikitsa, it's healing therapy. We want to bathe in this undifferentiated vibrational field where all labels dissolve as much as we can. And emotions will come up after we bathe in this field because they're held down. They will want to be liberated and come to the surface. And that's when we stand out of the way. Anger can just be heat, and it can release as heat, and it will only release. There's 1% of the mind saying, "This is my anger." Claiming it will hold it down, stuff it back down. There'll be shame. Deep sense of wrongdoing in the world. Horrible trauma that we may rightly feel anger towards the world, having lived. Is held down by one claim, "This is mine." And it's released when this is seen, this just is. This is just heat, conditions, touching the cool awareness. Desire can be just heat. Its causes. Restlessness, a kind of locked in pressure, air element. Mindfulness means memory. It's conscious memory, explicit memory, and implicit memory. Mindfulness points at this implicit memory. How do we remember to feel hurt when someone puts us down? We were hurt once in our pre-verbal phase. We were traumatized by not being seen. We remember. We can open up energetically to that experience. We open to causes and memories. We don't re-zip them up, we leave them open. And we interrupt the re-bonding, re-folding back into the zip drive. We interrupt that process through our openness and non-aversion, acceptance of this presence, this gift. We can challenge. Maybe we might feel outraged and angry because a brother or sister was always put down by a parent. We felt we had to defend them, or a child, and we feel outraged at injustice. So we acknowledge that the hindrances can be solutions for a perception that the world needs protection. And so we look at the relationship between beliefs and our stories. They can be surprisingly belief-based and can be relieved through a belief analysis. Am I the protector of the world? Are my angry outbursts worthwhile? What if I open up to a different belief? I'm just doing my best. You might find a decoupling with anger there. The hindrance itself might release. So hindrances are not always problems. They're not obstacles. They're solutions that, from a point of view, that point of view can be challenged. The idea of maintaining the hindrance as a solution might drop. So we can work in many levels today. I invite you to inquire, not just randomly, just stay in presence as we did beginning of this meditation, and then something comes up, inquire. In this way, we'll be developing the 7 factors of awakening. Dhammavichaya, the second one, is just very well suited for this feeling that we can't overcome the hindrances, which is vicikicca, doubt. And if anything, I want to start with activating investigation and curiosity in you. These can be overcome. Awakening is reality. An awakened person does overcome these 5 hindrances, or 10 fetters, which is just a more elaborate way of describing the 5 hindrances. So we build strength. That the Buddha did this. The Dhamma is well suited, well described. Give us the strength to see through these hindrances. And that others are doing it together, and we can support each other in this practice. As brothers and sisters. The rest of the day will be in relative silence until the Dhamma talk. Remember your tools: inquiry, metta, presence. I invite you to bring surrender as well into your heart. May you be well. happy, peaceful.